Our second speaker is Stuart Cooley. He is retired from Santa Monica College. His presentation is going to be on getting involved in the clean energy economy. Mr. Cooley is a retired Santa Monica College professor and a consultant in sustainable technologies. His career expertise is in solar photovoltaics, energy efficiency, and green building. He has worked as an energy engineer, a consulting mechanical engineer, and also in customer-facing roles for 2 electric utilities. He has a bachelor's in physical science from the University of Maryland and a master's in mechanical engineering from the University of Hawaii. So please welcome Mr. Stuart Cooley.
Thank you very much. Let's see, am I going to be share my screen now? And again, Stuart Cooley, recently or a year ago retired. Sorry, is your screen showing there?
We do see your PowerPoint.
Oh, but it's not active yet. Hold on.
Not in the presentation mode yet.
Okay. How's that? Oh, Are you getting full screen?
We're seeing a kind of a mixed view. So it might want to just go back to what you had.
Oh, is it better to do that? Okay. Let's see. All right. Anyway, so Stuart Cooley, and recently retired from Santa Monica College, where I ran a sustainable technologies program for the community college students there. We basically had a maker space type lab, so a lot of hands-on learning involved. And my task today, I guess, is to get you interested in what it is to be in the clean energy economy. There's a lot of news about that. I'll start with the slide here. Ironically dated April 1st, but it's no joke. There's over $1 trillion that are being planned to be spent in the area of infrastructure development. A large proportion of that is going to be in the clean energy economy. We'll talk about what subject areas that covers in a slide coming up. It's hugely ambitious. As you probably know, it's having some political difficulties moving through Congress, but I think we'll see something soon. And again, in July, it advanced through the Public Works bill advanced through the Senate. And so we're waiting for the rest of Congress to sign on to this, and we can move forward, hopefully with the infrastructure plan. This slide here, I think, is of high value to anyone interested in this field. It shows where a lot of the expenditures and expected jobs are. It's kind of hard to read, but I starred those areas that I think will be of most importance relating to energy. And it starts with discussion about the grid. The grid, of course, is the arrangement of all the different electric utilities across the country. We have quite a few of them here in California alone, and our own little CAISO group that organizes and handles electricity management. And I've worked for 2 different utilities. I have some experience, and I think it's a great place to go. It's generally a secure job. The utilities are going to be around for a while. And even with this movement towards distributed energy resources, such as wind and solar, I think we're going to see a big, strong hand with the electric utility and the need in that sector. The second star there is for solar photovoltaics, or PV for short. And you've probably seen lots of interest and coverage of that. And we can go into a little bit more detail of what the solar photovoltaic market means when it comes to possibilities for STEM careers. The third star relates to urban transport. In my mind, that means electric vehicles and the charging infrastructure. There's going to be a need to, build, design, build, and install all of these electric chargers across the country. Think of every gas station that has to be replaced with an electric fast charging facility. So that's something we can look forward to, and opportunities for business there as well. And then the last is sort of a mix of the 2: building efficiency retrofits, which refers to existing buildings and making them more efficient. And then there's the other one, which is looking at new buildings. new construction is where energy efficiency can be most effectively deployed. So we want to get it right out of the box, so to speak. And so new construction and green building is a fast growing area. And that's where I'll be spending a lot of my discussion in this talk. Just to give you an idea, the photovoltaic market has been growing at a very rapid rate, basically double digits. This report shows it at 20% growth rate, annual growth rate. And if you know anything about growth rates, 20%, if you use the rule of 72, Google it if you've never heard of it, you divide 72 by 20, and that gives you the doubling time of these jobs. So if there are 100,000 jobs in California today and we're growing at 20% annual growth, we're going to expect in approximately 2.5 to 3 years that will double to 200,000 jobs. So the demand for jobs in the solar sector are expected to grow rapidly across the country. And in California, since we've got such a strong market already, that's where you're going to see a lot of the growth taking place. Some of the utility jobs you might be interested in is just bear in mind that across the country, basically every utility meter, if it hasn't already been switched out, will be switched out to a smart meter. And a smart meter is basically a meter that can take on a lot more data than just the kilowatt hours used in a month. And it also communicates that data back to the utility. And with all of this information about energy arriving at the utility, or since it's your meter, you own it as well, you can derive a lot of interesting and useful information for saving energy at the home. Line worker electrician is also a great job. It's in high demand, will continue to be in high demand. As you can see, it takes a little bit of guts to do the job, working at heights generally, on poles and transmission towers and such. But the opportunities there are going to be robust. And then I didn't want to leave out the fact that customer service is going to be an important part of the utility growth. Basically, utilities were out of sight, out of mind, but as we get more involved in the data that's being collected, we're going to need people to explain that to the public and to help them manage these new systems as they get deployed into the environment. PV jobs, here's a classic picture of someone installing a solar panel on a rooftop. That is a big part of solar PV and jobs that are usually cited when we talk about it. But don't forget that if you get into the STEM field, there's a good chance that you'll be able to either bypass that step or move beyond becoming an installer and move into the realm of solar system design, solar sales, which is where a lot of the money is in sales engineering of solar systems. And then I threw down at the bottom there, what a permit runner. If you've never heard of that, it's the person that needs to take the plans to the city to get them approved, because government doesn't work as quickly as the private sector in many cases. The permit runners, have to sit in those and holding the plans and being knowledgeable about them. And I bet there's many a permit runner that's looking at the plans just before they present them to the city so that they can answer the questions that are needed. This messy slide here talks about energy efficiency. This is a tough subject area to talk about. It's where I spent most of my time in my last 40 years in the energy sector. So I mentioned just a few of the job titles, but it gets pretty complex because energy efficiency isn't something you can point at the way you can point at a solar module or something like that and explain that that's the product. Efficiency covers lighting, HVAC, motor use, all kinds of end uses in a building or in a facility for that matter. And then, so there's jobs that have to do with auditing, taking a look and basically measuring what's happening in a building. And then there's what's called measurement and verification, where after you make a change, you want to go back and show that you've achieved the energy savings you say you're going to achieve. So that is a fast growing field. And I was just looking for those of you interested in salaries, that can range anywhere from $70,000 to $110,000 a year. So these are pretty lucrative positions in the energy world. If you work with one specific building or a facility, you can become a facilities manager or facilities engineer, and you basically become responsible for the energy use of that building and finding ways of saving energy. Building operator basically does the same thing, but is usually stationed behind a building energy management system. And energy management systems are basically collecting data related to temperature, energy use, lighting, motors, and other data points across the building, and finding ways to optimize the use of the building, because you're often working basically against the weather patterns around you, or in the case of climate change, we're seeing that higher and higher temperatures are requiring greater and greater air conditioning. So we're going to need to find ways to mitigate that influence as we move into a changing climate future. Technicians are needed for those EMS systems. And so that's often an entry point for these kinds of jobs, but basically you need to get trained at the technical level, and to do well there, you also need some STEM background. HVAC stands for heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, and contractor work or design work around those kinds of systems is another role that would fall under energy efficiency. There's a new position out there, and a lot of jobs that have the role or the title sustainability in the title. And that's some that you might see are sustainability coordinator, sustainability manager, green building advisor. That relates to a measurement system for green buildings called LEED, something that I've done a lot of training in over the last 10 years. And the picture there is the one I found for Chief Sustainability Officer. Looks like an idyllic job, just laying in a field and enjoying the sunlight. I think it's a little more involved than that, but I think that it's a great goal to set for yourself. Chief Sustainability Officer is what we call C-suite. They tend to be right up there next to the CEO and influencing decisions in large corporations and crossing over into a lot of important areas that relate to diversity, equity, and inclusion, for example, and environmental justice. So that is a great goal to set for yourself. One way to do that is to get involved in the U.S. Green Building Council. And in full disclosure, I'm on the Los Angeles board, so I like to see people get involved in the USGBC. There you can get trained and learn to become an accredited professional, which is the accreditation for people in the field. People aren't, when it comes to LEED is, we use the word accredited for the professionals and certified for the buildings. So don't make the mistake of calling yourself a certified professional in the green building world. People will start confusing you with buildings. I thought I would throw up my resume here, blocking out a little bit of my personal information. Anyone wants to talk to me, we'll have the meet and greet later. But this gives you an idea of what I think you need to do, which is get your resume ready in a bare bones kind of view, the way I have it here, and put education first, because the chances are that what you're learning now is the most important thing and the most current thing that's involved in your life. And that's probably what you want any potential employer to see first on the resume. So that's why I've put education first on mine. If you've gathered a few credentials, such as the LEED AP, you can include it in the next lines that relate to your credentials or certifications, if that's what they call them. And then beyond that, you want your work experience, which is obviously important. Everyone wants you to have some experience. It's a good idea to get involved as early as you can in an industry, just so you get a feel for the jobs and the possibilities in that career. So that's where internships play a big part. And I imagine there's opportunities through your school that can get you into good positions there as well. The resume doesn't have to be too fancy because I've found, and I'm actually using it these days because I'm retired, but I'm not done yet. I use it to position my resume for positions, and it often requires putting it online. So they're going to run it through a mill basically that parses it. And you don't want too much fancy formatting, or you'll find yourself retyping your entire resume into some of these programs that are on the internet when you're going for a job. I also find it useful to don't ask the question, what do you want to be? I think in my day, growing up, you're always asked to express what you wanted to be. And I think at the age of 3, I decided I wanted to be an engineer, because the engineer was the person who drove the choo-choo train, right? So it's not why I became an engineer or studied engineering, but I did want to know what an engineer knows. And I think that's a question to ask yourself: what knowledge base do you find fascinating and interesting? And that's what you should pursue, because there's a good chance it'll cross paths with you and your job of your future, no matter what you decide to do. I'm finding a lot of overlap in all of the different sciences as I'm studying things now. And I found even in my career that my work experience at a computer center was of higher value than most of the training I was receiving in school. And I think that's true today, but you have to go a step beyond that and identify what in particular you need to know. To that end, I thought I would recommend, if you're not already aware of Khan Academy, a way to bone up on your math and refresh any high school math if that's where you stopped. And then it's quite a robust program there, and I think the price is right. I would also advise, what I'm doing for myself right now is taking on advanced math topics. I found a lot on the internet, and I'm sure you have too. Two I've mentioned that I found recently are Mathologer and Veritasium. And once you get into their algorithms, they'll be proposing other topics for you to learn moving on. And I would suggest, if you've got the bandwidth to do this whilst continuing your studies in a formal program, that you do just that. I'm also assuming that you're fairly competent in computer programming. So if you don't already have facility with Excel, I would get that. Chances are you've worked with Word. And then as you move into the presentation areas, you need to learn PowerPoint, of course. Beyond that, I would also learn some computer programming in Python and Unity. Those are the two that I am particularly interested in because of my interest in artificial intelligence and virtual reality. So the programs have a lot more uses than just those sectors. Also, stay current in science, and that's through a magazine, a subscription, Scientific American Science or Science News. You can, of course, get most of these online as well, but publishing is still where most of pure science is presented first, and so it's a good idea to stay current in science by reading it, from the sources, not just news stories about them that are basically digested by non-scientists. Other free advice, and I think it was mentioned earlier, be sure that you have your soft skills down, being able to meet and greet, make eye contact, speak clearly, avoid unprofessional language. Like this is true to me because in my 20s, I was asked by an employer, basically a headhunter, as we call them, are you a professional? Do you think you're a professional? And I quickly answered, yeah. And of course, professional doesn't answer with that. Professional would use proper English and say yes. Things as simple as that make a difference. You should appear confident. You should listen. Usually if you listen first, you'll be in a position to hear and empathize and understand what's being said. And it's okay to repeat things just to make sure you've heard it right and show that you are an active listener. Almost as a joke, I thought I'd throw this in there, that you can always, when you're stuck in an interview, you can say two things. Either that's good to know, or if they ask a question that you can't answer, just answer, that's hard to say, and leave a nice pregnant pause at the end there. Usually it'll cover your base. I once knew a successful developer that when I would talk to him and I would try and explain my engineering, all he would tell me is that right? Anyway, thought I'd let you enjoy that. And I'll leave you with this, the Green Buildings Career Map. I don't think the link is going to power up. I might give it a shot, but Career Map is going to go to a website that shows you a bunch of different entry-level jobs. And when you scroll over it, it gives you the name of the job. So there's draftsperson, for example, and these are careers in the green building or the clean economy sector, arguably. And once you click on, say, installation apprentice, it shows you the different pathways to move up the ladder. Up usually means higher salary and more responsibility, and over generally means moving you through different, from the new collar jobs sectors to these others. So this becomes a really useful mapping tool. And then you can look to see where things sort of end up for you. The energy engineer, you can go into the job detail and find out what the salary range is for an energy engineer, between 60 and 130,000 in this case. Since money talks, this is often a great tool to look at to see where things are going in terms of where you want to map your future. But be a word of caution, most of the positions that are going to exist in your future probably don't even exist yet. So even these in this map are probably not going to tell you the whole story. And that's, again, why you should go back and just get the basics, get the fundamentals, and augment your education with other needs. So with that, thank you.